This is the Ridiculously Amazing Insurance Agent Podcast, hosted by me, Kelly Donahue-Piro. This show is for growing insurance agencies looking to maximize their biggest investment, their people. Listen to the top agency performance partners clients share their story on how they boosted their performance by executing a plan. Let's head to the show. Hey everyone, it's Kelly Donahue-Piro here with another ridiculously amazing insurance agent podcast. And this one's special to me because this was one of the first clients that signed up for our 2-year program. I think they signed up in December. We got started in January. And it's been awesome to see their progress of blending 8 different books of business together and really creating and building a strong team. You're just going to love Lindsey and Jason. They are a married couple. They primarily have their locations in the Wisconsin area, and just really proud of all the work that they've done. And so we're going to let them tell you all about blending businesses together, going ahead and working with family, as well as some advice on agency acquisitions that I think everyone should listen up to. Without further ado, let me introduce Jason and Lindsey. Well, hello, everyone. It's Kelly Donahue-Piro here with 2 of my favorite Wisconsin people, the Flemings, Lindsey and Jason Fleming. I'm really excited to have you guys on the podcast today. I know, Lindsey, you've been a long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yes, first-time caller.
So Jason and Lindsey they have an agency in, well, mainly Wisconsin, right? And a little bit of Minnesota.
Yep.
And then you live in Iowa. So it's all kind of one big middle of the country footprint.
Yes.
Correct.
One big happy family in the
One
middle.
big happy family, which you will learn about today. But I'm very excited to have these 2 here because they have been working with us since January, put in a lot of hard work. And so I thought it'd be very cool to have you guys on because I think that and I know you're in a lot of the social media groups with insurance. There's a lot of opinions sometimes about some of the small town agencies and, just don't take cash or just don't do this. And sometimes it's harder in some of the communities you're in. So we're going to kind of dive into some of that. But first of all, what I want to do is hear from both of you guys. How did you make it into this insurance space? And I think probably have to start with Jason, because Lindsey, you were you got invited in just like most of us. I bet you did, as a little girl, you weren't like, I want to be an insurance agent when I grow up.
Definitely not.
So I guess for me, I started with a friend of mine was my agent. Had several conversations over some time where I wasn't happy with my job at that time. I was an in-office payer at that time, go figure, but I had stopped in to pay my premium, happened to run into the person who did the hiring for the firm that he was with. And they finally had their chance to try and get me to do their personality test or whatever it may have been at that time. And that all of a sudden we would do good at this, you should try this. Make a long story short, they kind of offered me a position. I talked to my mom, who was in the real estate business at the time and commission only type of a thing. And she said, absolutely not. You don't want to do this right now. And so I kind of jumped in feet first at that point. And
mom said no. You were like, cool, this is for me.
Yeah, mom said no, which made me want to do it for some reason even more. And it's crazy to think how it happened. But everybody I meet doesn't really thrive for insurance, let's say, as their career. They fall into it some weird way and then they're stuck, it seems like. So that's my story. I was with Farm Bureau in Minnesota for about 5 years. We opened our agency in 2012 and Lindsey started in 2019.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, we always say insurance is like the mob. Once you get in, you can't leave. Like you're
very, very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had several conversations about that today with some new employees. So it's kind of interesting. They feel the same already. So
that's awesome. So then this lovely lady walks in one day.
Yeah. So he talked me into moving from, the Minneapolis area to kind of by La Crosse, Wisconsin. And I was working in most of my background is hotel sales. And so I had done that for like 12 to 10-ish years, something like that. And I was working a job I didn't really love, and he was in a position where he needed help. So I feel like we were kind of both banging our heads against the wall, and divine intervention or God or whatever you believe in stepped in and said, nope, this isn't happening anymore. And I actually lost my job, and he kind of let me be sad for the weekend and said, come on, we're going to work. So I started learning, shortly after that. And, I think now that, obviously we'll touch on a little bit later too, probably, but I think that it's brought us closer. It's caused arguments that maybe weren't necessary, but all in all, I guess I wouldn't really change a thing. So it's been a good move for us professionally and personally.
So when he lured you into the agency, were you guys dating, married? Where were you guys in your relationship?
We were married. So we got married. We kind of had a whirlwind. We've been married for, is it 3.5 years now? And we went on we had a destination wedding. We got back from our wedding on I think it was a Friday. And then we were still living in Minneapolis at the time. And Jason moved essentially to start the first agency that he bought in this area. The Monday morning. Yeah. So it was kind of a whirlwind.
That's kind of how you guys roll though. It's like, let's just do it. Like, let's just go.
Yeah, it was definitely a whirlwind. I came down, I think in May. So it was like March to May. And then, it was maybe a year we were down here for until I joined the agency. So it wasn't too long. And, a new city, a new job, a new career, and a new marriage. Might as well do it all at the same time.
Listen, sometimes a fresh start's all you need. So that brings us into, who is Fleming Insurance Agency? Because Lindsey brought up a good point. The first agency Jason bought. So Jason, how many books of business have you actually purchased in the past, 3.5 years since Lindsey's been on board?
Well, we bought 8 practices, 3 of which were fairly small businesses. I would say they were even less than a 1-person operation per se, and 5 of them were fairly sizable. So we've had 8 total since in about 5 years. And then we had,
I guess the first one you bought was before we got married. The first 2.
The first one she argued about was before we were married.
Yes, I was like, terrible idea. Don't do it. What if you fail? Essentially, like his mom, don't do commission only. What if you fail?
Well, the first book you bought has like one of my favorite team members that works for you guys there.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Molly's in our Glenwood City office, and she. I'll never forget. I had about 2 weeks, I think, of help from that agency owner at that time. And I had had about 2 years of independent agency under my belt at that time. So I had my scratch agency, I guess you would call it. And then we bought that one. And I had the previous owner for about 2 or 3 weeks of, hey, I'll help you out. I'll answer calls. I didn't know how much background process there was, carriers changing logins, bank accounts, carriers dragging their feet, all of those kind of things that you don't maybe understand the first time you buy one. And then I'll never forget the day that I was walking out of the office. I had just rolled the phone to my cell phone and was driving home, and I was walking out to the car, and I wasn't even out the door, and the phone rings, and it was the different area code. I was like, this has to be one of these customers. And it was Molly, who works for us now. But she had said, oh, I used to do insurance, and, kind of just a weird deal. And literally, I think we interviewed her the next week and hired her like a week after. So she's been with us a little over 5 years, and she really holds down the fort there. So we appreciate her up there.
She was your first employee too, right?
First employee.
She was, and she stuck through it, the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah. Thank God for Molly.
So
you purchased 8 books. Where do we have today? How many locations, premium, what's your personal commercial farm?
Sure.
What does the agency look like? Give our listeners.
So we're in Wisconsin, northeastern Iowa, and Minnesota, I guess, is where 80% of our business, 70% of our business is Wisconsin, 25% Wisconsin, 25% in Minnesota, and then 5% in northeastern Iowa. We're trying to grow that a little bit. We're about a little over 12 million in annualized premium on the P&C side. And then we do about 75% personal. We lump farm into personal because that's how it's written with our bigger farm markets. And then 20% is commercial. And then 5% is, I would say, life and health. Life and health is newer for us. We have a Matt who's been doing it for a long time, just has started with us a little over a year ago. And we're trying to grow that part of our business as well.
Awesome. And so, looking at that, how many locations are we at right now?
Sure. So we would have 6 locations, and 5 of them with staff, and all 5 of the actual physical locations are in Wisconsin that have staff. And then Minnesota is more of a satellite location, customers that I've done business with for a long period of time.
Awesome. So you basically had the scratch agency and started buying 8 books of business, and those came staff, some had locations. And what was the time frame you bought 8 books of business, just so people can put this into perspective?
So it was 5 years, but we did. So in the end of 2018, we bought one, January 5th or something, or I'm sorry, December 5th of 2018. And then March of 2019 and May of 2019, we bought about 7 million or so of premium in those 3 transactions. In, I don't know, it's just kind of a crazy situation, and things happened, and it maybe wasn't all planned out, and we didn't really maybe know what we were doing, but they were kind of falling into our lap, kind of right in a row there. So that was definitely a pretty crazy time. In general, I guess I don't know how to explain it all.
Yeah, it was a lot at once, maybe more, maybe some would describe it as we bit off a little bit more than we could chew. But if we wouldn't have done that, we probably wouldn't know you. So everything has a reason, right? Yes.
I remember our first call, and I was like, and I think Lindsey was like, well, we bought 8 books of business in like 7 minutes, and we have a lot of different staff and all different phone systems, and everyone's doing this. And I was like, okay.
And Jason's not, everybody has their strengths, right? And organization is not one of his, I would say. But that's okay. Like, you don't know what you don't know when you don't know it, right? So we worked through it, and every day I joked over the weekend, like, I can see the end of maybe not the light at the end of the tunnel, but like, I know it's there now. So it's been a process to work through, but
we like to say you see a light, and you're sure at this point it's not like a Mack truck trying to come at you.
Yes.
Like that, there's a big difference. So I've had the pleasure of being at all of your offices, even Miss Molly's. And so I thought that, one thing I think is interesting that's going on in the insurance space today is like, there's a lot of strong personalities are saying like, this is the only way to run your agency, right? Like, you have to do this. You don't need locations. Let everyone work from home. Like, there's a lot of chatter on that out there. And I say, if that works for you, great, but it doesn't work for everybody. And it's really harsh to come down, I think, and tell people like, there's going to be no retail locations in the future ever. I'm like, well, there might be less, but and so I want to just talk a little bit about, the smaller communities, because that's kind of your specialty. And as we were working on your 10-year vision, I think it found its way in there of like, we want to be the go-to for, smaller communities in Wisconsin. So talk to us a little bit about what the smaller communities mean, why you feel like you guys are good at serving them, and if there's any challenges you see.
Well, I think some of the biggest challenges are going to be technology. So we had all analog phone style systems, and we were really trying to get to like a VoIP system. A bunch of those small telecoms, they actually own the phone numbers. the extensions and everything. So we really have been struggling. It's almost been a 1-year process for us to get all these phones switched. Some of them now we have to a cellular number that ports back into the VoIP system. So that's definitely some challenges we've had. There isn't blazing internet in all locations. We're pretty fortunate in most of them do
we have fiber optics now, but we've got one that is still on DSL that, we think about, okay, how are we going to power another a couple employees' computers, the new phones that take a lot of bandwidth, and just like that's something you have to think about before you implement it. Cause once you rip the Band-Aid off, it's hard to put it back on when it comes to phones and whatnot. So,
and we have, we're, 80% done with our phones, and we should have the other one kind of working this week yet. So that's just been a huge thing that we've been working on. And once we're there, it's going to help us be more technology driven.
Well, I want to say something to our listeners on that front. Like, I was with you in January when that decision was made, and you guys have worked on it every single week. So people who think it's just like, well, just call them. It's like, you guys have called them, and then one of the phone companies got bought. Like, it literally just crazy stuff that happens with sometimes those small phone companies.
And, I think that like the C word, are we allowed to talk about COVID? I think it really opened our eyes to how handicapped, for lack of a better term, I guess, if that's, we were without the VoIP system. Like, we had to transfer to people's personal numbers, personal cell phones are calling out. And, we wanted to keep our employees and everybody safe and, work from home as much as possible, but it wasn't, it wasn't an ideal situation. And so, it's been a year since we've, I think, really started from starting to find out which company is going to work best for us to we have one office left for implementation. And so it's been a year and a half since we started working on that.
And even, as silly as it sounds, the one that we're waiting on is one that the other office is on the same company's service, but that's just something with that extension was a little bit different, and they were able to get us set up 8 months before the other one. So there wasn't any rhyme or reason to any of it. It was just keep trudging forward and getting frustrated with it, I guess. So I guess that's the phone system. All of the agencies we bought have been, low technology use, I guess we'll just say. Most of them were paper file. Most of them didn't even have an agency management system, or if they did, weren't probably using it to its utmost, ability, or, using it every time, let's just say. So that was a huge issue. We still have file cabinets galore that we're just saving as backup. And then we're just backfilling in, at every chance we get. If we move them to a different carrier or something, we're going ahead and shredding that file at that point once we get everything, updated to the new company. So that's really been a challenge as well.
Sure.
But I mean, the smaller communities definitely have a loyal following. So that is the best part about all of it is we're not from a lot of these towns. We didn't grow up there. We didn't go to high school. We didn't play football or whatever there. So it's they're just a loyal group of people, generally pretty hardworking farming communities, if that kind of makes sense. So that's been the good of it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're open to, it's harder because like Jason said, we can't live in all the communities, right? And so we'll never be locals. We'll never be the ones they see at church and, or school, football games, whatever. But, so that has been a challenge in itself too, is making sure they know who we are and they can get a good sense of, still the hometown feeling that they're looking for. So it's been good. It's a positive and a challenge where it's, important to have have the employees that work every day in those offices, make sure they're local, make sure they're active in the communities. And so that helps.
Yeah, that's the most important part of it, I think, is the employees that are local, that have lived there for a long time. Our best success has come from that type of employee. So
yeah, and training people into insurance, because it's like the mob.
Right.
Yeah, and I guess that would be another thing, is there isn't, there's one or two agencies in most of the towns. So there isn't like there's a giant pool of people to recruit from. So we've had to basically train people from new, because, and maybe you don't always want somebody from a different agency either, but we have not had a lot of success finding people with experience. So it's a little bit longer of a process for us, but I don't know, it's more rewarding. And I think we've actually found some really great people that are going to help us. It's just, you got to train them on insurance.
But then they get to learn it your way. Like there's no like untraining either.
Right.
There's the idea that somebody licensed comes in, you have to untrain them on a lot of sometimes the habits that you don't always love.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely a positive and a negative, right? Or a positive and a challenge.
Well, and some people figure out insurance isn't for them, and that's okay, and some people figure out that, wow, I didn't ever think I'd like insurance, but here I am and I'm doing pretty good at it.
Right. Exactly.
Cool thing. So obviously, Jason, you've acquired quite a few books of business, and I know that that's something that I feel like agency owners, they all want to acquire books of business, right? Like, I'd love one. And it almost, I think, for some agencies becomes emotional. Like they don't look at it like a business deal. It's like, I just want to get books. Somebody wants to sell me a book, I'll buy the book. And you don't always sometimes think through, like, is this a good fit for me? And it's kind of addictive. So it becomes like a little bit of a thing. So, I mean, you've obviously learned a lot in your acquisitions, I would say.
Sure.
And so what advice do you have for agencies who want to acquire books? Like, what would you tell your younger self about the acquisition game?
Well, I think a lot of things that we've learned from you, like our way, what is our way? What is our process? What is our system? If we would have had a lot of that in place ahead of time, we would have had a lot less trials and tribulations and challenges. So looking at now, if one were to, come around now, it would be a lot easier, just for the fact that I kind of know what we want. We're building out our own systems. We're figuring out what we want. Some of that we're winging it, for a long time. And now that you know what you want, you just got to kind of go that way. And, ideally they would not all be paper agencies, but that's what they are around us, that we're finding that success. And I think partially why we've been successful is we're not the agency in town that they've been battling with for 25 years, or maybe it's not even battle, but it's, hey, we take 5 from you this month and you take 5 from us. And it's this back and forth situation. So, or, if it's the smaller agency and there's a big one around, they definitely don't seem to want to sell to the big one, because there's an animosity there or whatever that may be. So, trying to find people that are, really, I think you got to solve their problem. They want to retire. It's probably their biggest asset. And I guess I've just tried to solve their problem like we would do with a normal customer. Instead of just, hey, I'll give you X amount of dollars. I want to take over on this date. Like, that's really not going to work. Solving their problems and finding out what their pain point is and who they don't want to sell it to has been easier. So that's some of my, ideas.
But I think that's so cool if you think about like the smaller towns, though, because the smaller town agencies, they don't want to sell to a bank. They don't want to sell to a big corporate company. That's like part of their pride and their legacy is there, and so I think that that's a good, unique advantage that you have.
Yeah.
I think they want to know that their clients, there's relationships and there's years of community ties, and they want to know that their clients are going to be well taken care of, I think. And I think they like that we're a family business too. So it's a husband and wife team, with others, many, others that come along with us. But I think they like that too. And it just makes them feel good.
Well, each owner kind of has their own set of things that are important to them. Obviously, some are real, hey, we've worked with ABC company for 30 years and we are so loyal to them. And if they had any inclining that you were going to move that business, they want nothing to do with it. So really just, again, I think finding out what's important to them has been just helped me a lot.
I would kick in and say, knowing that not every agency is going to be the right agency either. Like, I think Jason's really learned that in the last year of like, if it doesn't fit with us and our book and our companies or makes sense, then it's okay for somebody else to buy it.
Yeah. Like if we can't roll it into another location or like it's bigger, like if you want another location to manage, is it like, what does that look like? And I think one thing that you guys learned that stuck out for me early on was just figuring out how to manage all the carriers too. Cause it's like, as you acquire and you're in small towns, there's all these little mutuals and, this one and that one. And all of a sudden you have 54 carriers and you're like,
yes.
And they're all different broker codes and,
I think at the beginning we thought more is better, like more options. That's great. If one option doesn't fit, then we definitely have another one. But what we've learned is it's really hard to be an expert in all, or it's really hard to even have a login that works all the time for all. Like it's, and you get the one customer that is with the company that you don't know well, and then you're on the phone or they're in front of you and you can't log in. And so we've definitely realized over the last year or so that we want our 10 to 15 core companies and that's okay. That's good.
Yeah. And it's, because you have that big footprint too, it's like each location's used to using the companies they were used to. And people don't typically go research that stuff on their own, be like, oh, cool, we have access to these other 20. Let me play around. And so then those locations keep with those carriers. And it's almost like they're still running kind of independently, which is something you guys have done really great about. I do want to ask one question. That's a very easy question. That's not on the list, as I totally freak Jason out right now. But it kind of came out like, so you have these 5 locations and all these different people, different levels of experience, some new people, some people have been doing it for a long time, some people that you hired, some people that you came through the acquisition, right? How do you go about this process? Because this is the biggest development I've seen with your agency. I don't think I've ever told you this, but from January to today, I feel like the agency is working more like a team and they even know each other and they like each other and that they can all get together and learn from each other. Like, how do you put all those different people, different towns, different personalities together and get them operating together?
Well, I think it's just, you got to maybe believe in it yourself because it is a challenge. I guess I don't even know how to.
I'll jump in.
You can jump in.
No. I think that the pandemic we can credit people getting more comfortable on Zoom calls and video calls. I mean, we started out doing and some agencies may say, well, obviously that's a no-brainer, but when we did, 15-minute interviews, instead of a phone interview, we would do a video call just to see how people interact. And one of our agents in location, Caitlin, she actually came up with the idea of it'd be really nice to like do Zoom calls or something to get to know everybody. So we tease her that it's her fault. We have to meet now every other week or weekly. But I think that has helped a lot. We've done 2 years ago, we did a holiday party. Last year we didn't, but so that was our first time really getting everybody together. And then, so now, like we mentioned, we do the weekly Zoom calls, whether it's our calls with you, Kelly, or on our own, we make sure to meet. And then we do our in-person meetings once a quarter. It's kind of shaping out to be with you. So I think that's helped too, just to get everybody to feel comfortable and have some camaraderie and, be on a team together versus they're each little individual or, they're each individual office.
Well, and I think your team that you have now really wants to learn too. They may have reservations, but they kind of keep an open mind. Like, well, how are you doing that? Like, I'm curious, because you have all these people have been doing it their own way for so long. And then I actually think it's like the downs, there's a lot of craziness when you buy that many books of business, but it's almost like you just threw it all together as opposed to just like, here's our agency. And then you buy one and it's like you versus them. It's kind of like everybody's an outsider. And I think that actually played to your advantage a little bit.
Yeah, I think in just trying to, the weekly meetings, I was never, the weekly meeting guy, but we're not missing weekly meetings anymore. It's, I think that is the most important part of what we've done. But yeah, I think there's just a lot of things that we've kind of been lucky. We have some good people also that have just kind of helped. And then we have had 4 or 5 people that were super just open and said, hey, we're open to try anything to get better. Which then was, okay, if I think we almost thought that everyone was against us to a degree. And then when 5 or 6 people opened up that they were interested in growing and learning and getting better, like then, okay, we had these people that wanted to try. And then we just started maybe believing in it more ourselves as we went through that process too.
Yeah. Now I think everybody's open to try. And that's really all you can ask, right? So, quoting over the phone or not using a notebook, like some of those things are very scary for people. And I can appreciate that, but everybody's trying. And so that's, at the end of the day, that's all we can ask is that people try.
And some people have said that it's better.
Yeah.
Some people have admitted that the ideas and the time management stuff has worked. So that goes a long way too. When someone can, hey, we're annoyed by it, but it is working. Like that definitely helps move that ball down the court too. So.
No, I remember when I was like, I think we need to shut down the agency and do a day-long training with everybody. And I think, Jason, you almost had like shut down 5 locations? Yeah. So I appreciate you taking the leap of faith to make it happen. And the world keeps moving around, which is the good part.
Definitely.
And so it's a unique thing that you guys have getting everybody together. But I also think it's super unique because there's the 2 of you that are husband and wife. And then Jason, your sister, works at the agency too, and the accounting function. And we actually have a ton of agencies that are family based. And so I always say to them, like, I have give you guys so much credit because it's hard for me to go to Thanksgiving dinner with my family, let alone like share income and like operate a business together. So the fact that you guys can do this, like I'm in awe every single moment I see something like this, but like, I know it's not easy. Like what strategies or tips do you have for working with family? Like, how do you guys make it work and not let it take over your lives?
So the canned answer would be you try not to let it, separate work from your family dynamic, but that's really almost impossible. But I think if you had asked me 6 months ago or even a year ago, I probably would have had a different answer. But I think clearly defined roles has been a huge thing. Lindsey and I kind of all did a little bit of everything for a long time, and we're moving away from that to a degree to where, we're working into our job descriptions more. So it's a lot easier if you have a specific role in what you're working on, instead of just, hey, we're scrambling, trying to do whatever we can to get everybody taken care of. So
it's a lot easier. We have weekly leadership meetings. So with a to-do list, right? So each week we talk about what's on each other's to-do list. And it's a really obvious way to hold each other accountable, whether it's me holding Jason accountable or him holding me or Melissa or, whatever it is, but it's right out there in front of everybody, whether I did my stuff or not. So it's easier than him saying, you didn't do this, you didn't do this, you didn't get to this, whatever. It's just like, there it is. Like it's black and white. So that's helped, I think.
usually what happens in the family businesses is like your husband and wife, it's like in the kitchen, like you're making dinner. It's like, did you do XYZ? And it's not like in a professional manner. Like you wouldn't call up an employee, you wouldn't call up like Karin and be like at 7:30 at night, did you do XYZ?
Yeah.
You know, like
that happens all the time still. I mean, he'll say, did you do this? Like there was a day that, maybe a month ago or so, we were working in the same office. And that is one thing I should back up. We don't often work in the same office. So we don't work together, like close like this, like day to day. But, once to 2 times a week, every other week, maybe we do. But it was a morning where I was working in the office. It was a Monday. We'd spent all weekend together and it was early and he loves to get up. He tries to wake me up at like 4:00 in the morning and get me out of bed and get me to the office early. And I am not a morning person. And so I was already kind of crabby and it was just one of those Mondays and nothing was going wrong. But I said, he comes over and says, did you do this? And I said, Jason, it's on my list. Like, kind of like snipped at him a little bit. And I'm like, internally, I'm like, okay, I got to rein that in. Like, cause you got to try and be professional still. And, and then the afternoon wore on and I had probably a couple other, we'll say bitchy or comments towards him. And then, I was looking at something at his desk with him and he goes, Lindsey, you got to stop being so bitchy today. And I was like, I know, I'm sorry. Like, I can't. So, I mean, just like, I think that like laughing at that, like I could have let that set me off, but like really just being real and honest of, we are husband and wife. We do annoy each other. We do love each other. So, I mean, it's that constant, sometimes a struggle, sometimes it's great. So, but
I don't know who gave her the truth serum, but we should get some more of it.
At least it was negative in my aspect, right? Not yours. But I think that like for me coming into his business, because we'll say it that way, like, I mean, I think we view it more as our business now, but the reality of it is I came into his business. And so I have to kind of check myself, and I don't want to sound like old fashioned, but like know my role. Like at the end of the day, like he's the boss, it's his business and I have to respect that. And it was, I don't know, week 1, again, emotions are high because I was, feeling sorry for myself for losing my job and timing is everything, right? There was some show on TV that we don't even watch. And it was a mother or a husband and wife working together. And the husband said he owned the business and she was working and it was a construction company or something. And the husband said, you have to pick. Do you want to be the boss at work or at home? Because you can't be the boss both places. So I kind of took that, like, that was just kind of an aha moment. Like, I have to respect that he's the boss and he's a good boss to work for. So
I would say like you work with family and sometimes even crazier, like kids, because like that's such a different relationship of like parent to child too. Husband and wife are kind of equals, but there is a hierarchy there. And even when they're 27, there's still like a hierarchy. And so I always kind of like giggle just a little bit because, when you're thinking about it, like I'll get in family agencies and things will get heated. They'll be like, Dad, like it'll just like come out of their mouth. Like, Dad, I'm not a little kid anymore. Like, okay. All right. Everybody in their corners.
We definitely try not to yell in front of other people. So, he's generally pretty calm. So
in those situations, whether it's your family like that, like they know you so well, they know how to push buttons too. Right. So you have to be careful not to be like, I'm not going to go there right now. I'm going to recoil this a little bit, But I think you guys make some good points.
On the other hand too, like we can get really wrapped in only talking about work. So It's like we went to a wedding and I was like, okay, let's talk about like, where do you want to go on vacation? And he's like, I can't even think about vacation right now. And I'm like, no, like, let's talk about anything other than work right now. So it's also, sometimes finding like, what's the right word? Like, respecting our time at home at night together too. Like you have to take time to like be a couple and not just co-workers too. So.
Well, that's when he goes hunting, right? You know, you
right.
send him off hunting and you and Toby hang out.
Right, exactly.
Toby's the office dog, for those of you who don't know. What's the new dog's name? There's a new addition to the fam.
It's Chrissy. She's a Shih Tzu, and she kind of has ears like Chrissy from Three's Company. And her name was her previous owners. We got her from somebody else. They named her Christmas, and it's super cute. But we just felt like we needed, and she's almost 4, so we knew we couldn't like change her name.
Her whole world.
Yeah, so we just shortened it to Chrissy or Chris or something like that. So it's cute. She fits right in.
She's only like 100 hours in so far.
Yeah.
So
How's Toby doing with the idea that there's a woman in his household?
I think he likes it.
I think he's definitely showing his manly traits.
There you go.
Yeah,
so,
I think the first day he was a little, what is this and who is this and why is she in my space? But they play together pretty good. So
yeah, as long as there's equal treat distribution and belly rubs, everybody's okay.
Exactly.
So why don't you tell us all, because I'm a big believer of this, of, going out there and telling people your goals, right? Like, where do you want to be in 10 years? Because let's just say I bump into you in 10 years. The worst that comes is like, we came so close. You always get closer far along. And where do you see the agency 10 years from now?
So we recently put this together a lot with you, and it's a real hard question to really nail down. So we looked at it as we basically want to triple in size, premium size, and then we would do that half organically, and then half through acquisition. We do have some, we've had a lot of conversations with other agencies and kind of have some that I think that we can move forward on. And then we also, just are doing our numbers backwards as to how we're going to write enough business per month, per employee, with the retention and things factored into that. So that's kind of our vision and growth goals. And it sounds like a lot. It also sounds like it could be a little, depending on how things go. And we recently hired 4 new people. So our number per person just changed drastically, just by the sheer amount of people that we have. So,
and on the other hand, not, speaking with the dollars, like we really want to operate in a way that all of our offices are, it's almost like it could be like they were in one building. We want to operate as a team. It doesn't matter where you call or who answers, that person can help you and give you just as good of service as if you walked in their office. So yeah. I think that is, both of those goals are just as important as the other.
Right.
Yeah.
When we were working on like processes, it's like I had like, hey, we could have like 100 more next week if we wanted to. So like, I don't know if this is possible, but we want to operate with all processes and systems defined and also being followed, because when you separate the chaos that we've been through over the years, if we had a system for everything, there would be less chaos and less turmoil and less nobody knowing what to do exactly or where we are. So that's important to us, is getting more of our systems and processes dialed in to where it doesn't have to be that way.
Well, and it also sounds like if you keep acquiring, you need that, right? Because those people are coming into the Fleming agency, not necessarily like, hey, we're all getting thrown in together at the same time.
Right.
Sure.
And constantly learning and growing. Like, we've learned a lot. We talked earlier about, the technology and whatnot in some smaller communities, but the same goes for us. Like some of the things that we're doing now, we didn't even know, like we didn't know really that automation was a thing that long, 3 years ago. We didn't know that we could use different tools to make our lives easier. And so always growing and changing and evolving as the years go on, I guess, too. So
yeah, keeping cool and current and hip.
yeah, right. Exactly.
Well, thank you guys so much. This has been so fun. I appreciate your time to come on board on an evening, of course, because we're all workaholics. So why wouldn't we do a podcast, on a crazy Monday night?
Right.
But I think it's really helpful for people to hear like how small towns work and acquiring agencies. And you guys have done such great work. So I hope that you're very proud of all that you've accomplished this year and, getting on to the 10-year goal. So if anybody wants to reach out to you and say hello, what's the best way for them to contact you guys?
They can email either of us, Jason or Lindsey, and then at FlemingAgents.com. We're, as we've kind of grown and developed, like I think there is a passion for me to help other people too. So we're just whether it's business, whether it's, some of our struggles, we're happy to share and be involved or, help people. And that one phone call when they call and say, I'm so glad you talked to me about that is worth more than any commission or any whatever it may be. So kind of things are changing a little bit in our mindset of wanting to help people as well. So
yeah, and anybody on the fence on signing up with your programs, we'd be happy to be a non-biased person that would, tell them how amazing you are and how amazing the programs are.
Non-biased, but we'll tell them how amazing you are. And we'll
right,
be
non-biased. Exactly. Yeah. So, it's just, we've been through a lot in the last year, and you really can look back and see the growth that and Jason as an owner, as a boss, that really how far he's come and we've all come together. So it's been a crazy ride, but it's been good.
So the question was, how could they?
Oh, sorry.
And then you gave everybody your email. I'm like, no, gotta keep your emails low.
Facebook. You can find us on Facebook, Fleming Insurance Agency, in a couple few smaller towns in Wisconsin by La Crosse, Prairie du Chien, Boscobel, Viroqua, and Westby, and Glenwood City as well. And then our website is Fleming Agents with an S on the end.com. And it's one M in Fleming, Fleming. So
I feel like that was directed.
No. A lot of people think there's two M's in Fleming. So I always have to preface.
And I'm going to say thank you to Grinnell Mutual, because that's how I first met Lindsey. Yes. At one of the farm trainings or the commercial trainings. And that's what brought us all together. So we should give some shout out to Grinnell too, because they're great partners for us and for you guys. So
absolutely. Yeah.
I remember we were driving to an escape room for a different carrier at the time, and she kept playing the videos, and I was like, geez, like, why does she have to say exactly what I'm having problems with right now?
Yeah. And he still says that on the daily. Yeah. Like, he's always like, is Kelly in my head? Like, does she do these podcasts after she talks to me? Or
yeah.
Actually, all the videos are shot 6 to 8 weeks in advance. So when they get released, I'm from the future in your head. That doesn't freak you out even more.
That is worse, actually.
And by the way, if I don't hear that like twice a week, because I said this to an agency today that's looking at signing on with us, and he's like, how do you know what's going on here without even knowing me? And I'm like, because all agencies have the same problems. It's like, you're not special. You're not special. Your problems aren't special enough.
As soon as you can accept that you're not special, you can start learning.
Right.
Your problems aren't special. Congratulations. They're very basic. You got basic agency issues. So, and I always say that the funny thing about where you guys are, you only got there because you did it right? You only got there because you grew and you did all the right things. And as you're doing the right things, more things happen to deal with. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you guys. We'll let you go back to Toby and Christmas.
Thanks for having us, Kelly. We appreciate it.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Well, hello there. Just want to stop and say hi. I can't believe it's November already. We are shooting this this is going to be released middle of November. I just want to outline a few things that are going to be coming up so that you can be prepared. First of all, Thanksgiving's coming up. My 40th birthday is coming up. And we like to party pretty hard for birthdays. So what we're going to be doing is actually announcing a Black Friday special. So if there's been any process packs on our website, online school, swag that you've had your eye on, this will be the deepest discount we ever do. So don't delay. Have that Black Friday credit card ready, out and going. We're only going to do it on the Friday after Thanksgiving, so you got to be watching, but you'll get that all day. Then in the month of December, we're going to be doing some bundles of different things so that you can set your agency up for success for next year. But I also want to give you one little tip that's coming in a few weeks. If you have not started your end of year planning, I don't know what you're waiting for. We're in November. I see so many agencies that start releasing their plan the middle or end of January. And honestly, guys, 8% of your year is over by the time you do that. It's not enough time for people to noodle it and launch it. So get on it. We launched our Q4 Agency Performance Pack course, which is all plan and execute, how to build your agency's success roadmap. Now you've missed all the specials, but you can still buy it on our website at full price, which is $9.95. You get an awesome workbook. You own it. You can get it forever and ever and ever and ever. We're going to update it a little bit every year. And on top of it all, you get videos of me coaching you through it. And you get a whole guide of how to run reports in AMS 360, HawkSoft, or Epic. I mean, that alone is insanity because that is huge. We've paid management system trainers to do that for you. So I don't know what you're waiting for. You can go ahead and click on the link, or you can go to our store and find it, but get it going. You need to hop on this. And that's going to be a huge opportunity for your agency. Don't want to pay $90.95? You can actually subscribe for $245 a month and get all of our trainings, which, guys, that probably is a part of your 2022 plan, training your team on cross-selling and sales and retention and all of those things. So why not subscribe for $245 a month? You can cancel anytime. Check it out. We can't wait to welcome you as a new student. Well, I hope you had some good takeaways from that podcast, including how to name your dog, because we did talk about that, of course. But really, it's an amazing strategy when you start thinking about, there's a lot of people in the insurance space that will say, oh, you should do this, you should do this. But every agency is unique, every town is unique, and you need to take that into consideration. You have to do what's best for you and your agency, not just follow the trendsetters in the business. Those aren't always what's best for you. So hopefully you've enjoyed this ridiculously amazing insurance agent podcast. If you have, like it, rate it, share it with a friend. We don't have any sponsors for a reason because we want to make sure that it's all just for you. We'll see you soon.